Hello. I thought I'd read out of my book here and post on my Montana YouTube page. So, the book that I'm reading from, Montana Cooking with Ralph Suited YouTube page. And the book that I'm reading from is Slowing Down to the Speed of Joy. And this is by Matthew Kelly. Have you ever heard of Matthew Kelly? So I think I'm going to read part 1, the first chapter. Well, I could read the prologue. The Jar of Life. You may have heard this story. It's been woven into the fabric of our culture. But the untold truth of the story is what we need today. See if you can spot it. Once upon a time, there was a university professor who wanted to teach his students the importance of prioritizing how we spend our time. The professor stood in front of his class with a large glass jar and several rocks on the table before him. Taking the empty jar, he began to fill it with the rocks. When the rocks had been placed in the jar, they reached the brim. Is the jar full? He asked his student, and the class agreed that it was. Reaching under the table, the professor brought out a small bucket of pebbles, pouring them into the jar. He shook it gently, allowing the pebbles to make their way into the space around the rocks. Is the jar full? He asked again. It looked full, but his class was reluctant to agree this time. In the jar of life, the overwhelming majority of opportunities and possibilities will not fit in the jar. The story plays right into our common delusion. We have forgotten the fortitude. Fortitude is a state of having limits bound and then we are human beings. We have limits, and it is past time we started living with that in mind. Every day we participate in the clash between the infinite and the finite. Your time is finite, but the possibilities are endless. Life isn't about getting everything done. That's impossible. Our refusal to trace this immutable truth has resulted in epidemic levels of dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction has led us to doubt, question, and the dislike ourselves for not being able to do something that was impossible to begin with. We have been obsessed with efficiency since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and for the past 250 years, we have been increasing the speed of light. We have more stuff we can get done in a day, and we have unimaginable convenience and unimaginable convenience, and yet we stress, anxious, overwhelmed, and dissatisfied. We have gained so much, but what we have lost, what has been the real cost? We have lost our joy. Look around. People are manic and panicked, living lives that are harmed and friendly, with hearts that are anxious and overwhelmed. Why? To what end? The welcome world is searching for its lost joy. We've just been going about it the wrong way. The speed at which you do anything can change the whole world. Meaning of that experience. The speed at which you do something can also completely change how you experience that experience. A conversation that is rich tends to feel shallow and transcendental. It doesn't create a meaningful connection between two people. Speed reading diminishes comprehension and satisfaction. A rushed workout can result in injury. Rushing an important decision leads us to overlook important details. This can result in a poor decision and regret. A rushed home improvement project often ends in disaster. Eating quickly leads to indigestion and prevents us from savoring the food. We are trying to do too much too quickly. Speed kills enjoyment. The speed at which you do anything affects the meaning of that experience, the outcome of that activity, and the experience itself. This is true for individual activity, but it is also true of life itself. Life isn't just about what we do. The speed at which we do things matters. Joy erupts within us. We allow an experience to touch the very depths of our soul that cannot be rushed. It's time to slow down to the speed of joy. Okay, that was the prologue. Now I will start on part 1, Beyond the Joyless Urgency. The thing I would change. There are people who say they have no regret. I'm one of them. If I could go back and live my life all over again, there are things I would change. One thing I would change is the speed at which I have lived my life. I would slow my life down, and not just a little. For speed of my life, for most of my life, I've had a very bad reputation. Since I was 13 years old, I have been the busiest person I know. This isn't hyperbole. I started 2 businesses in high school, worked part-time job, played several sports competitively, and took my studies seriously. Who is the busiest person you know? I suspect the people who have known me over the past 30 years would ultimately name me. For most of my life, I was proud of that. But I know where it's a bad reputation. But I now realize it's a bad reputation. The glorification of busy led me to take pride in this for a long time. But those days are long gone now. Busy isn't even the right word for it. The speed at which I was living my life seemed like a form of insanity in hindsight. I was living my life like a Ferrari with no brakes. I spent 30 years rushing from one thing to the next, leaving one thing early, arriving next thing late, squeezing as much as was in humanity possible into each day, always striving for more, better and faster. Ambition is ambition is a brutal dictator. It's disoriented. It distorts everything. Even ambition for good things can blind us to what really matters. 10 years ago, a friend asked me a question that was so reluctantary, yet I had never even considered it. Do you feel like you are doing enough? The question itself was bewildering. I didn't even know how to consider the question at that. The concept of doing enough was too foreign, but the question burrowed deep in my heart and began to go to work. And at times when my schedule reached obvious levels of insanity, the question would announce itself once again. Do you feel like you are doing enough? The birth of my children and the joys of my family life slowed my roll a little. Spending time with my children changed my whole perspective on time. But it took another 10 years before I took a sufficiently bold leap to yield meaningful fruit. For 25 years, I had been traveling from one city to the next, giving thousands of presentations. This had been my life. Then 5 years ago, by some grace, I realized that I needed to slow down. It was counter to everything I had done in my life that I still cannot believe I did. But I committed to take 1 year off from traveling and speaking. The effects were significant and immediate. I had no idea the negative impact life on the road had been having on every aspect of my life for all those years. I had long suspected some of these costs, but I had vastly understand them. Even though I wasn't traveling and had seen the positive effects of that change, I remained busy, perhaps as busy as ever. I was still busier than anyone I knew, but being in the same place every day made it harder than ever to ignore my deeper questions that were kneading away at my heart. It's easy to fall into the trap of caring too much about things that don't matter enough. Those things can be material possessions, but they can also be projects, other people's opinion, social engagement, and a myriad of things we say yes to without considering the implications. I knew I needed to slow down, but I didn't know how. It was a life skill I had never acquired. I knew the only way to slow down was to do less, and in order to do less, I had to discern what mattered most. A few days later, I wrote in a journal, "You need to change the pace of your life. It's a choice, and it's yours to make." I'd like to be able to say, I have never looked back. I'd like to be able to say it has been unimaginated success, but I can't. The truth is, I have never failed to succeed so successfully at anything in my life. I am literally horrible at this, but the fruits of my modest successors have been amazing. For 5 years, I have been awkwardly attempting to live my life at the speed of joy. I'm sure my fumbling and stumbling looks like a giant trying to ride a tricycle, but the fruits are unimaginable, and the lessons memento. I have learned, for example, that it is possible to accomplish great things while being peaceful and content. When I am in the classroom of silence, I wonder where the intense drive came from at such a young age. I'm sure there were all sorts of hopes and dreams, insecurities and complexes behind that drive. Looking back today, I see a young man at times possessed by mission, at times possessed by ambition, and at times possessed by desire to please people. I look back and know I don't want to go back. These 5 years have been glorious and frustrating. Slowing down to the speed of joy has been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. I am by no means the patron saint of the speed of joy, but I'm a true believer in its ability to transform how we experience life. Urgent, busy, and hurry are tyrants. I have learned many things, trying to break free from them. I will share these insights with you in the pages that follow, but to be clear, the ideas on these pages are ideas I'm striving to embrace, not wisdom I have made my own, yet I struggle to implement the ideas in this book every day. Some days I do great. I delight in the speed of joy on those days and promise myself I will never go back. Other days I get seduced all over again by urgent, busy, and hurry. Slowing down to the speed of joy It's simple but difficult. I want to be clear on that from the start. You need to really want it. Otherwise, the gravitational pull of the culture will tear you away from your joy, and you will yourself be trapped in the tyranny of this urgent. Again, it's okay to have days like that. You will. It's inevitable and unavoidable. But learn to recognize them for what they are right away, because too many days in a row like that you will find yourself dragged back to a place you never wanted to be ever again. You don't have to decide right now. If you want to live your life at the speed of joy, let me make a case for the speed of joy. Let me show you the what and the why and the how. Let me share with you the speed of joy, how the speed of joy will improve your health, relationship, career, personal finance, spirituality, and other aspects of life. Let me reintroduce to you your raw ability to enjoy life, and then you can decide. I would say this: the speed of joy is a thing of beauty, and I suspect you will become more attracted to it with every passing page. If you sense the attraction rising in your soul, encourage it, reflect on it, be grateful for it, and together let's find ways to make the speed of joy possible for you. I say possible because every turn there will be other voices telling you it's impossible. Those voices are wrong. Tell them to shout. Tell them so. Shout them down if you have to. It is possible to slow down to the speed of joy, the frantic pace of life. The culture encourages. It's ugly, and once you've experienced life at the speed of joy, you will never want to go back. In a world obsessed with doing more and doing it faster than ever, slowing down and doing less is the only sane response. I should go back and live my life all over again. This is one thing I would change. I change the speed at which I have lived my life. I can't go back, but I do intend to live my life at the speed of joy from here on out. It's time to move beyond the joyless urgency of our time. And that was chapter 1. I will pick up another night on chapter 2. I thank you for listening to all my subscribers on Montana Cooking with Ralph Sutich page. And if you haven't subscribed yet to my page, please subscribe to my YouTube page, Montana Cooking with Ralph Sutich. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.